And we are live. Hello, guys, and welcome to Jason Hebert Live. Hello to everybody in the chat. I have a lot of the regulars in here. We have a lot of new people as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We have another interview for you today. If you're not familiar with the channel, almost every night we do either a missing persons interview with the loved ones of missing persons, or we also do interviews of unsolved crimes. The goal is to help spread awareness, bring in front as many people as possible, and hope to get some closure and some justice for these families. So if you're into that, trying to help, listen to these families that are grieving, honestly, and just need someone to help, if you'd like to try to help solve the cases, click subscribe below, set the notification bell to all. And like I said, we do this almost every night. Before I get started, I'd like to bring on my amazing co-host, who many people that are already with the channel know, Mr. Grotto.
How's it going?
Would you like to introduce yourself real quick for the new members?
Yep, if you're just tuning in, my name's Mr. Grotto. I started helping out here on Jason Hebert's channel with the Disappeared series and a couple of things here and there. And well, now I'm sitting here with y'all tonight. So nice to see you.
All right. We have a lot of co-hosts that come and help out on the channel, but Grotto's my pick of the litter. No offense to anyone else. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, right? Everyone else that co-hosts is like, hey, wait a second. Okay, so
15 messages.
What's that?
So you just got 15 messages.
I know. So a lot of the cases we cover, I'm bringing them to you guys for the first time. So we give a simple little intro, and then we let the family tell the story. This one, a lot of you probably know, but we had spoken to Anna beforehand. There are some things out there that either aren't true or at least aren't confirmed. So I included a little bit of that in the opening script, and then she will go over some of them with you as well. So let me just kind of read the basics for those of you who aren't familiar, and then we'll bring Anna on. On February 13, 2017, Abby Williams and Libby German were dropped off by Libby's sister at the Mears parking lot of the Mary Gerard Nature Reserve in Delphi, Indiana, with plans to have been picked up by Libby's father, Derek German, between 3 and 3:30 later that day. Between 1:45 and 2:07, Libby took a photo of Abby on the old Monon High Bridge and posted it to Snapchat. 2:07 is the time the photo was opened on Snapchat. So taking the 1:38 to 1:45 arrival window, the 10-minute or so walk to the bridge, and the few minutes it would have taken to cross the bridge, as it was in very bad shape. So it's estimated about 2 to 6 minutes, depending how fast you walked. And since they stopped and took a picture, they weren't rushing, assumedly, which was in very poor shape, puts the likely time of the photo being taken at about 1:55, give or take maybe 5 minutes or so. When Derek arrived to pick up the girls, they were nowhere to be found. A search party was formed and then officially abandoned, although many family and friends searched throughout the night. Then the next day on the 14th at about 1:50 p.m., state police confirmed 2 bodies were found along Deer Creek. The day after that, on the 15th at 2:33 p.m., state police ID'd the bodies found along Deer Creek as those of Libby and Abby. The following day, on the 16th, ABC World News Tonight released a photo of a man police wanted to question. And on the 19th, they named that man the suspect. We will show his picture throughout this broadcast as well. And we are going to play the audio in just a moment, actually right now. So on the 22nd, police released an audio recording from Libby's cell phone of the man saying "down the hill." We've looped it for you a few times for those of you not familiar with it.
Down the hill. 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 Down the hill.
Okay. All right. So this is the sketch. There are some things we have to mention about this once we bring Anna on, such as the hat and things like that. But we'll go over that in just a moment. And this was a secondary sketch. We'll go over all those details in just a moment, guy. But on March 9th, state police had a press conference with Libby's grandfather pleading for tips. And since then, there have been absolutely no answers. And tonight we have on Anna Williams, who is here to tell her daughter's story and hope that she can get it out in front of even more people and hopefully try to help end this nightmare. So Anna, I just want to say I'm so sorry for what you're going through.
Thank you. I'm really glad you guys are doing this.
Thank you. Me too. And we'll stay in touch. We're going to do on top of this everything we can to pump this out and talk to anyone you need. I've already kind of told you that, but anybody who knows anything, we will be giving the tip lines and things like that of who to contact. I always leave my information. You always can send something to me, but I never recommend that. You should go to the authorities, but for whatever reason, if someone did send something to me, I do pass it along. Anna, do you want to start by, I mean, there's some stuff out there, but do you want to tell us a little bit just about Abby, who she was, and then kind of lead us into that day?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to talk about just Abby or even Abby and Libby, we're talking about the most normal 13, 14-year-olds in the United States. Active in sports, active in band, active in music in general, active in their churches. They were amazing artistic girls, light of our families. They were such great kids. Abigail, she was just so kind-hearted and so pleasant and so beautiful. And Libby was all of those same things. And this is a thing that happened in this tiny community of less than 5,000, and bad things don't happen here. That happened to us. And we're grateful that people are still helping us look, and it's been nearly 4 years.
And thank you to everyone who I've got. If you want to pull up the main pictures without the audio, we can start kind of looping those. But thank you to everyone who has helped, help spread any information that they're aware of or, that they've seen. But now there are some things you already knew and some things that actually brought to your attention today as we were all kind of researching together that you said aren't, sorry, give me 1 second, guys. Here we go. That aren't 100% correct or may not, or you might just not know. Do you want to go into what some of those things are so we can clear up anything kind of right off the bat that is incorrect?
Sure. Most everything that I read, like through the Reddit, which is what you guys are going with your main time frame, a lot of that I know to be 100% true as far as the time frames. Everything's off by a little bit, but it's all a guesstimation anyways. There were a few names that I thought were a little bit off as far as like who my brothers were, who was there, who wasn't there, specifics as far as witness statements. Some of those things I've never heard before or seen until today about certain people and certain things. Can't say that they are or are not true, but they're not anything that I've ever been made aware of. So I won't go into those details, but I would say most of that timeline is fairly accurate of what happened that day.
Okay. And Grotto, I know you have a couple questions as well. I want to make sure we get those in before the chat starts asking their questions.
Yeah. I heard a couple people say they did. First off, chat had a question for me. Give them a couple of seconds. Can everyone hear me better now? I had about 3 or 4 people say that I was coming in a little low.
Can we hang on? Let me get rid of the pictures for a moment because I don't want to cover Anna up with the questions. But Shannon Miller, while we wait for them to respond in the chat, Anna, where did the information for the second police sketch come from? Is there more than one suspect? My condolences to you. I pray this case is solved.
Shannon, the basic answer that we have is what we were told when we were brought in to see the second sketches. We've run this first sketch. We feel like we know who this person might be, or we've cleared up this particular person. And now we're going to look at another person that other people also noticed might have been there that day. And now we'd like to talk to that person. If you were in a bank or in a gas station, it was robbed, the 10 people in there with you are all going to see something different. None of us see the same thing in a situation. Happens a lot. So there are a lot of sketches that were put together. And then at the end of the day, this one was the number one that most people felt comfortable with. And then the second one was the one that everybody else also thought could closely resemble or was another person. So they ran through everything they could up until, I'm going to say, mid-April of 2019, I believe, is when that sketch came out. We had the second big press release of the sketch, and we'd already had the audio and video at that time of the different things available, and that was when this sketch came forward. And at that time, they said, we're changing directions. Now we want to see who else may have seen this person because we've talked to everybody else concerning the first person. And it was very confusing. And it was like, wait, we've put all this faith into this first sketch for all this time. This is who we thought we were looking for. And now we've changed our minds. And they're like, no, we just want to know who else was out there that day and go over this. So not a complete dismissal, but a change in directions.
Okay. One more question, then Grotto, you can get some minutes. Don't want to fall too behind on the chat. The other Tammy asked, do you think he's a local?
Tammy, it would seem very hard to believe that somebody could find that bridge because even some of the locals that do live here and have lived here didn't know how to find it. But several things come into play in that. One of those is that the old road system was taken out and an interstate was put in called the Hoosier Heartland. That was on an extensive project where even I had a hard time figuring out where the old roads and the new road connected because some of the cutoffs were moved and you had to go another way. So it feels very hard to believe that somebody that had not lived here at some point or did not currently live here could easily stumble upon this area. But I have been out on the roads fishing on a neighboring bridge, and a couple of guys stopped and said, "Hey, do you know where to find X and X bridge?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, well, that's this place, but to get there now, you would have to take, if you didn't know the area, it'd be very hard to stumble on it. It's just that far out." And people that lived here for years said, "I never knew that bridge was there. I mean, I'd heard people talk about it, but I didn't know where it was." So it's kind of a 50-50. It seems more probable that it's somebody that did live here or currently lives here as to the location of the bridge.
Because there's a lot of talk about a trucker, but you were saying it's not really that accessible or common for truckers?
For that particular road, I mean, if there was a detour that you had to go around, you might go there, but it still would lead you to other roads in a roundabout way. Like if somebody was, we have a lot of fields here in Indiana, a lot of corn, a lot of beans. If nobody's heard, Indiana. If you were dropping off or delivering, which you would not be in February, it would seem unlikely that a semi loaded down with anything would be on those roads. Nor could you see it from the Freedom Bridge or the High Bridge to notice that a couple of kids might be walking by themselves if you felt so inclined to target somebody. Just doesn't seem very probable. Not impossible, but not very probable.
Okay. Grotto.
So that kind of actually leads into what my first question was. In multiple interviews, you've gone over some information about why you and others have believed that it's local. And you mentioned the Hoosier Highway. Some people have mentioned that that's the reason why it could be someone from out of the area, and that, you know, I-65 isn't that far. You're only a couple of hours from X state, X major city. But as you've mentioned, even though it's not that far, it's quite an extensive network of roads, and only someone who's local or who has been into the area multiple times would really know how to go about. That's correct?
I feel that way. Because I remember what the roads looked like before the interstate came through, and now to go out there is a little bit different. Not 100%, but you would have to know where the old roads were and where they moved roads, where the ballpark that we're building. There was a road called 218 that sat on the south side of our property that is now currently on the north side of the property. You can still see the old gravel pathway in the raised road where 218 was, but when they built the road, they moved 218. So it's the same, but it's different. It's about a mile difference where it's located, and those connecting roads towards the bridge are very similar. The ones off of the old 25 are not all the same for Hoosier Heartland, which is the interstate. It's not far from Indy, it's not far from 65, it's not far from anywhere, but that particular bridge, Monon High Bridge, is considerably off the beaten path. It is not a well-known, there probably aren't even signs that say Monon High Bridge, turn here and then turn this way and go that way. It's just not, it's a local thing. It's an old abandoned bridge. The locals know it, but you're not traveling to see this.
It's a local trail, basically.
Yeah. It's a local historical point.
So we have a question here that kind of leads into what I was going to ask. We had talked about the recording. We'd all given our opinions on it, and we had given a couple possibilities. I had said, to me, it sounded like he might have a weapon because it wasn't as forceful as you'd expect to be like, get down there. It almost kind of, you could picture him holding something and nodding towards it or something along those lines. And then Grotto had asked about maybe did he know the guy or something along those lines. Could have been a guy that worked in the area for the bridge or something like that. So that kind of relates to this question from Heidi Zito. First, I am so sorry. She says, do you think the girls knew the killer?
So if we don't believe that they did. We have nothing in concerning any social media accounts because the FBI did all the backgrounds. Nothing indicating in when they popped up, when Libby took the picture of Abby on the end of the bridge, and then where we have this audio thing going. Is there any indication they're like, oh, that's so-and-so, that's somebody's brother, that's so-and-so's uncle, that's Mr. So-and-so. They don't seem to have any inclination. We know that a lot of family members have been brought up in this. We're well aware of that. We deal with that every day. But if the girls knew it was Mike Patty or Cody or my dad or a family member, I feel very certain that they would have said, oh, well, what's Uncle Dave doing out here? What's Grandpa Mike doing out here? The girls didn't seem to have any of that with the video or audio or any of the pictures they've taken to indicate that, so-and-so was trying to play a prank on them or was being goofy with them. It didn't seem anything like that they did not seem to be aware of who it was that they were with or was near them.
Okay. And so they released first the Get Down the Hill, then later the guys, right? Because I saw some people saying it was all together one sentence. Some saying it wasn't. What do we know as far as that for sure? I've read all different things, so I want to get it from you to make sure.
There is less than a 3-second gap of the guys and Down the Hill in all legitimate form about the time that somebody would to greet you and you were to respond and then say Down the Hill is the amount of time. Hey guys, Down the Hill. There's not long minutes of pause. There is seconds of pause.
So it could be that the girls were even responding, but they muted that part out or something?
I don't even think it was that. It might have been, as rude as it sounds, the typical teenager, huh? What? There's a brief, like I said, a half second to a second pause of the actuality between what they've said to where they said it's not even worth messaging. Let's not care what the girls might have said in that, huh, what, excuse me type situation. It was a legit, hey guys, and then Down the Hill. That was the most important part.
Okay. Jake Knauer asks, have police confirmed if they believe this person or persons had found Libby and Abby online or had some kind of fake profile where they could have been tracking them? Well, obviously that wouldn't be confirmed, but has there been any talk of that?
I could not 100% confirm, but I confirm safely enough that we signed paperwork for them to go on their Gmail and their Apple accounts to go through all of their social media and had at no time found that they were being followed. We're supposed to be meeting somebody. We have no reason to believe in any way, which is also the reason why no Amber Alert was issued. People questioned us about that to begin with. No suspicious car, no inclination that they were meeting anybody that might have been different than who they said, because they weren't meeting anybody. They woke up and wanted to go and they went. So we feel like very strongly they've gone through all of those possibilities, and we have no reason to believe that they were meeting somebody that wasn't who they said or that they had fake profiles. Abby did have a Facebook profile that I was unaware of because she knew I didn't let her have one until she was 14, much like she couldn't date. Not huge rules, people. I mean, Facebook says, and I said, you may not date and you may not have, and you cannot have a cell phone until these things. And she hid it from me, but it also said she worked at the Krusty Krab. Or the Flora Pizza King, or something asinine like that, where I was like, well, anybody that lives here knows that this place doesn't have a thing. Like, that's a whole, not so much fake, but, they referenced SpongeBob. I mean,
right.
not the brightest at the time for that particular deal. I mean,
I think
that's
any kid
where we're
that
at.
age is going to try to get a Facebook behind your back, right? I mean, that's totally.
I
When I was
mean, there are
12, I
worse
was
things
in
kids.
AOL chat rooms. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there are worse things that kids were doing probably at that age. So this was like at the end of the day when I saw it, I was like, grounded again, grounded again. Here we are, grounded again. So
I'm going to get one more question in Grotto, because I know you have a couple more also. So just trying to make sure to include everyone. Dave Wilson asks, was there a homeless camp around anywhere close by? I think meaning that you could check to see a drifter that matched that description or something along those lines.
yes, there were inclinations that there was a gentleman that may have been on probation in our state that was from another state that had allegations of other crimes out of our state that may have been in the area. All of those allegations have proved to not be true. We don't have a large homeless population in our area, including that area. It's pretty far remote. There's lots of other places that would be much more accessible to somebody that didn't have anywhere to live than that particular bridge that could be out of town. So I can assume as to what some of those rumors were about without saying the gentleman's name that was involved and said he lived out that way. No, we don't. It's a town of less than 5,000. We very rarely get people of low means that just show up at our town and camp out there for days. It just doesn't happen very much.
Okay, Grotto.
Yeah, so just to kind of go off of some of the questions that people have had and, whether or not they were meeting anyone out there, looking at the photos, like just myself looking at the photos of the girls online, obviously they both look fairly innocent, and some people might think that they may have been ignorant and would have approached an adult that they may not have been familiar with. But I do remember seeing an interview with your story about you and Abby leaving the store in the past. And during that encounter, you identified that she'd been old enough to cognitively identify potentially dangerous situations and perceive threats from strangers. But you've also already kind of touched on the topic about whether or not they may have known the person. And I mentioned that perhaps a person could have been initially posing as an employee of the reserve, but there had been some talk of a weapon, so that kind of seems like that may have been more of what it was. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did. We'd had a minimal incident of somebody at a local store. I noticed him when I walked in, but when people are standing at the checkout and somebody comes in the door, you tend to look up because you're going to run into somebody in town 9 times out of 10. You're not going to slip past a teacher, a coworker, a friend, somebody the kids know, and you're going to wave and say hello. This particular person did not. I remember seeing them as they were checking out, but they were sitting in their car while we walked out. I was unaware how close we were parked to them. And I think he said something in reference to, you look like you know who I am, or you know who I am. And I said, well, I apologize if I don't remember. I've worked in a lot of different places. I'm not great with names. But I remember how he looked down at her in the car and then looked back up at me. And we just immediately left. And she's like, Mom, that man made me feel creepy. I was like, by all means, if that ever was to happen again, especially because you're going to be dating and driving soon, that if somebody was to talk to you like that, you turn around, you go back in the store, you wait until somebody walks you out, you call somebody while you're in the store. If you ever feel that way about anything that you just felt, you need to find a way out. Like, don't sit there and deal with it. Leave as soon as you can. Be safe, be smart about it. There's lots of things you can do rather than that. And I feel like both girls were aware of that. They had been around enough people in school and in the public in just general circumstances that they did recognize things like that. And I always felt it was to be honest about what that really feels like.
Absolutely. And I had read, I know Libby, I believe Abby, they were either one or both was into forensic science and stuff like that as well. And that people were thinking that might have even been why she pulled out the phone. I mean, it's a quick thinking kids. Yeah.
And we'll never know. And we'll never know for sure how everything transpired until this case is solved. The girls were out taking pictures. Libby was taking pictures. I feel there's a very good chance of right place, right time with cameras, and then again cognitive thinking of she felt or noticed something that maybe the other didn't see, and then we could have just hit the lotto on this audio and video. I mean, I still am so grateful that they both did what they did that day, and they stayed together, which is what we've always preached to our girls, and most girls should know. Carry a phone, use the buddy system, let somebody know what you're doing, where you're going, that type of a thing, and stick together. Like, even if you get lost, stick together. We honestly felt that's what happened that day. Somebody got hurt, something bad had happened, but it's because somebody fell, and we'll stick together until they come find both of us, other than wandering off. So whatever happened that day, I'm still so grateful that we have the pictures and the audio and the video that we do, and how we've pulled all this together. And I don't even care how we came about it. I'm just glad we have it.
Absolutely. Sultana asks, Anna, what are your thoughts about the person that law enforcement wants more information on at the CPS building? Do you have any more information?
So we don't have anything more than what was released at that press conference where the second sketch was released of the younger person. A lot of things have happened in the last few years. And to remember all specific things, if anybody ever talked about a vehicle at the CPS building, I don't even know that I knew there was a CPS building there. I know what buildings we lost. There was a church out that way that got torn down because of the new road. All this legal easement and right-of-way came through. I don't know that I knew that there was a CPS building. I don't know that I ever heard about a car being out there. I can't say there was or there wasn't. If law enforcement says that they want to talk about a vehicle that was out there, then so be it, because it was a very rough time to begin with. And if they're saying that people said that there was, they're probably right. I wouldn't have remembered it, but there's a lot of things I don't remember in those early days. And there were so many other rumors and false things rolling around. It was really hard to keep it all straight for a long time.
I can imagine. Southern Witch asks, were the girls seen by anyone else at the trails?
I don't have an actual witness count from that day as far as how many people were out there, but I know that it was a fair day of over 50 degrees. Lots of people said, yeah, our kids were out walking about that day, but I couldn't tell you how many. I believe the count is at least 50. There are people that have pressed to actually have the names and numbers actually released for whatever reason, like that's supposed to help, because you can just, it's an active investigation, people. You don't get to demand anything from the police department. I don't care if you go to the attorney general and sign your petitions. They will do what they have to. And so I know what I know. And that was a nice enough day that lots of people that we know throughout the community said, yeah, we were out there earlier. Yeah, we were out there later. And we know this, we know that, or we didn't see, or we didn't. Yeah. I would say a fair number is 50 people out around that day.
So we'll do something at the end where she speaks directly to them. But if you're one of the 50, please, I say this in every video, but I think a lot of people assume one of two things. Either what I know isn't big enough to matter, or, oh, Anna probably already knows this, because how could I know it if she doesn't? But that's absolutely not true. And as a matter of fact, and you and I went over some things today that were out there, like we said, and you weren't aware of them. So, guys, these cases are always like 10,000 pieces of tiny little info that you have to get the right group of them together. It's rarely like that one big, oh, it was Bill. It's normally like 10 little things. You put it together, and boom, you find out who the guy is. So please, whatever you know, if you click the description below, expand or show all, something along those lines, whatever it says there, it will, you can do that. One more question, then Grot, I know you have some more. So Shannon Miller asks, do the Delphi police have DNA of the perpetrator?
Okay, so Shannon, we are not committed to anything like that, because they say there is always DNA in every crime scene. This is what Holman is reported of saying. The girls stayed overnight at Mike and Becky's house. All of those clothes are washed in the same washer and dryer. They've been in contact with people. If I was to be in the same presence with these gentlemen today, there's a good chance we'd be sitting in the same area to where something I've touched has touched them, or I've touched them in a way that my DNA is going to be there, whether I had something to do with a crime or not. And what we have to remember is what belongs and what doesn't. Because they did the DNA at our house. They did the DNA at Mike and Becky's house. They took very close family and friends DNA because anything that was reasonable was dismissed. And they're looking for the thing that doesn't belong. And that is the best answer that I have for you.
And kind of on that topic of DNA, I know they just recently passed a law in your state where anyone who's even suspected of a felony crime can now be DNA tested. So that should hopefully help quite a bit.
Yes, most states you have to be convicted before they take. And as of January 2019, if you were a suspect of or being all you have to be is to be asked. You don't have to be convicted of. You just have to be brought on charges of, and they will take that, which has solved other cases. I won't say better or worse than ours or more or less than ours because that's a variation, but breaking and enterings where they found fingerprints or DNA that they didn't have. People that do those things once will do them again. And much like ours, there's a chance that this could have happened before here or somewhere else, but without that initial contact and without them having conviction of a felony, they don't have that. Now we have a better chance. Most states could have a better chance of collecting DNA if you're being accused of, not just convicted of.
This is a good one. Sean Crowley asks, what do you feel is the best way for the public to help?
That is super. So please listen to us. Please listen to the things that we've requested. Please share the poster and the tip line. Call it. Messaging me personally at all hours of the day and night. Not super helpful because I can't do anything more than the FBI is already doing. We appreciate your prayers and your thoughts, but we ask that you share the poster with the tip line information. If you think you know something, by all means, call that. What's the worst that's going to happen? Somebody's going to get bothered and lose 30 minutes of their day being questioned by the police. That's it. That's the worst that's going to happen. Best thing that's going to happen is that we don't ever have to worry about this happening to somebody else.
Absolutely. And to extend what she just said, guys, you have to realize I deal with a lot of smaller cases too, and those ones get tons of messages. So you can imagine this one, it's much more well known. So please don't, if you know something, of course, you can come forward to the authorities or whatever. But if it's just something that you heard or a site, again, everyone has their own beliefs, what they believe in, but you have to realize psychics that a lot of times they get like 50 different psychics saying 50 different things. So
many. So and they don't even know whose mom I am. Once said, I know you're Libby's mom. I'm like, oh, of all the things, I feel like you should have gotten that one right first.
Oh my God. Couldn't you see that I didn't want this phone call? I'm only teasing.
No, that's fair. No, that's fair.
Do you feel? Okay. Well, this is another option. Yeah, sorry about that. I try to read them quick so I don't put something on screen I don't want to. But I guess this is decent. Do you feel it could be bigger than just a local person, such as anything corruption or targeted?
That is also a fair question. I mean, any small town that you have with a limited number of people and resources, anything's possible. It's possible a serial killer came through here. It's possible it's a local. It's possible that it was anything other than the last thing we thought possible, which is somebody that lives here, because we're in a town of less than 5,000. If he lived here, how come we don't know who he is? That's the hard part of this. It feels so close and it feels so local, but if it is, why don't we know who he is? Why didn't we find him? a lot of small town cases probably feel the same way. It feels so close to home, and yet it's a reach. There's lots of allegations of other crimes that have happened. We've had missing girls from other cities. Some people actually, I mean, sex trade is a huge thing right now. Very scary for all of us in any neighborhood, whether you've lost a child or not. And with anybody with teenagers should be concerned. No inclination right now as to the fact that this is some big cover up. This is not a Lifetime movie or any other major media outlet where it's just a cut and dry cover up. We don't feel that way for the most part because it just seems so hard to believe that it could. If it was, we figure, I mean, it just seems like we would know.
Okay. And kind of tying into what you just said and the something I was going to mention, because we had talked about it previously, is Revealing Star asked, do you find anything familiar about Bridge Guy? So kind of like you just said, and you had actually told me he looks like about 90% of the guys in that town with how his look and his dress. So do you want to go into that a little?
Yeah, that was, I mean, excuse me. I've not lived in Delphi all my life. It's a great town. I don't know everybody that lives here. I don't know everybody's family, aunts, uncles, cousins, and whatnot that live here. But what I do know is that I've sat in headquarters and waited for them to show me or talk to me about something, whatever it was, and watch somebody come in from the local police or fire that, well, just here to talk to so-and-so. Somebody called me in, just here to do the thing. And they're like, yep. And everybody just said, it's not me. I don't have anything to hide. So go ahead and do what you need to do. Nobody had a problem with that. So familiar BG, it could be any of the half dozen to thousands of people that live here or near here. It's Indiana. A lot of corn-fed folks. A lot of your local guys at that particular age frame are probably carrying that frame. It's not the clothes they wear, the boots, the hat, any of the things, not unusual for that time of year in this area. Nothing remarkable. Nothing remarkable.
And that's the problem, right?
That's the problem.
Until they are found out, and thank you, Until. Ask Anna, I am so sorry for what you're going through. Doug Carter says we are one piece away from solving this. What do you think that is?
My personal feeling about this is when they keep asking for one tip, it's like they are this close. This close. They need that one person to come forward and say, so I know so-and-so said that they were here and we were there and this and that and the other. But it's the aunt, the sister, the mother, the cousin, the family friend that now knows for sure that what they said wasn't right. They know that so-and-so wasn't with them and was somewhere else. And it's that, I feel like that's the type of thing. When we say we're one tip away, we're one piece of the puzzle, that we're waiting for that one person that actually knows. So-and-so was not where they said they were that day. They were not. I know what I said earlier, but it wasn't true. And this is what I think, or this is what that's how I feel, that we are that one person away from just breaking the barrier and having this all done.
That one girlfriend or sister or something that, like you said, it's like, wait,
It's
he
somebody.
wasn't.
Yeah. That alibi will have been broken. That's going to take a hard, that's going to be a hard thing for them because it's probably close, as it would be. Somebody had posted to begin with, if it was my brother, I would know. If it was my father, I would know. If it was, I would know. There is somebody that knows that. Somebody out there does know that that's their brother, their uncle, their father, their grandpa, whoever it may be. There is somebody that knows that person. And we haven't heard from them yet, and we really would like to.
I'm going to bring this one up because this is actually one of the first things you said to me when I called you about a week ago or so. She asked, Anna, do you think the police have given up? But you had stressed that you completely respect the cops and think they're doing a great job. So did you want to just give them a little credit real quick, just so people know your stance on them?
Absolutely. I very rarely have to call law enforcement for anything. I'm always welcome to. And every once in a while, I feel like the moon goes into its full rotation and the crazies come out, and I hear from the psychics and those from far beyond reach out and connect, and they say, well, there's this, that, and the other, and I have this and I have that, and people won't. So a few things will gather up, and I'll call up one of the guys and be like, hey, so here's my list for the week of everything of the last couple of days that has come up that I feel like, let's just talk about this. Go ahead and run with this. And I give them the list, and they tell me, hey, we're still getting tips every day. We're still here. We meet at X amount of time on X amount of days, and we talk about this and that. We are still working on this. We're sorry it's as long as it's been, but we're still here, and we're still trying, and I always thank them because they are.
Don't they have a motto for this case? I could have sworn I remember saying that they had like a motto or something. I think it was one more tip or something like that. I'd have to look up the case. When I first looked up the case, I remember watching the police report. They were very initially the first night during the news report, they mentioned, they hope that it's just that they're at a friend's house or something. And then when it became an active investigation, it was quite the room full of people ready to help and look. And there was like a plaque on the wall, and I just remember them reiterating that. I wish I could remember the phrase, but it was definitely worth watching. And
so I feel like the what you're referencing to is something that Libby is quoted in saying is in a minute, and we asked just 1 minute. Just give us 1 minute, just 1 minute to look at the picture and share the photo and share the audio. Just 1 minute. We asked for just 1 minute.
Okay, this will be important to clear up here. I'm assuming most people don't make this mistake, but anyone who does, we want to go over it. Lollipop asks, what changed law enforcement's mind about the first sketch and put out a much younger second sketch? But do you want to go over this, how the sketches came about or anything like that?
Sure. We touched on that briefly earlier, but again, the original sketch was the most popular of the sketches that were put together in the initial investigation. Ellie felt like they had cleared and gone through all of the tips and felt like they had a good understanding of who the first sketch guy was, the BG. Felt like they had cleared all of those rumors and speculations to who that was up, and then now concentrated on another person that other people recognize as being out there that day. Another sketch collaborated that was basically second runner-up. Whether first and second were together or separate, whether one was involved and the other was not. They didn't know who the bridge guy was. We didn't know who for sure. People kind of put a sketch together and said, yeah, that's what we feel this guy looked like. And again, if you're in a bank or a grocery store and it's being robbed, you're not going to see the same thing as your neighboring hostages are, so to speak. You're not going to see what color shirt, his hair color. You're all going to get something different. So that was a collaboration of, and that's where we feel like the second sketch comes from also, is that we had the first sketch that most people believed was out there that day of that gentleman. And the second one was another person they also felt was out there that day that they may not have known.
Okay.
That's the best I can put it.
Right. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. Stephanie K asked, did anything come from the guy on Facebook saying that he is sure that the bridge guy is his brother and currently in prison? I actually saw that years, at least months before I started looking into the case. I remember saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. So funny story. That guy that was so hard and heavy about his brother in prison was also looking at serious time for embezzlement and other charges. And when people dug into his Facebook and started posting about that, the whole family disappeared.
Really?
Everything disappeared.
Wow.
It was sad. It is still very sad The amount of people that will insinuate and bring themselves into something like this just to be able to say, I was involved. They want their 15 minutes. And I don't know what particular reason these people brought this particular gentleman to the limelight, but they did. And it didn't pan out to anything worth anything. Most of it being for the fact that, wrong time, wrong place was really like there was no feasibility or probability. We don't know what brought this family on, but again, when other people that I don't even know, dug themselves into the Facebook world and the Black World Wide Web and found all kinds of things, and were like, this just doesn't seem very plausible. And then it all went away about as fast as everything else has.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Wow. It's too bad nothing came of that. But and to be clear, anything mentioned here today, whether it's by myself, Grotto, or Anna, it's all just alleged. We make no hard accusations. She's just trying to piece things together and figure it out. So it's all alleged. Dee Dee sent us a super chat. He wants you to know, he put a heart, Anna, you are being strong and are so beautiful. We are here to offer support. Thank you for sharing tonight.
Thank you.
I think she's talking about the police. Anne Marie Price. They have some retiring. How do you feel since they are on the case from, I guess, the beginning? She's going to say.
We have had some local retirees. We've had a mayor that's changed jobs. Chief of police have changed the courthouse. There was a couple of months where there was folks leaving and shifting jobs, and a very close friend of mine and I, when it would come up, I was like, are we rallying? Is something big about to happen? Or do we just like circumstances come up and jobs change? And that's what it is. Circumstances and jobs change. It seems hard to believe that, some of the folks retiring, but Riley has done a great job for a very many of years. He has worked so many cases, and he's probably due for this retirement. He has been, much like the rest, has been a wonderful blessing to this family throughout this. We've had the pleasure of visiting with him on and off camera, on the investigation and on personal notes over dinner throughout all of this. He's traveled with us amongst him, Holman, and so many others that we've been gracious enough to be personally in our hearts. These people are family. They think about us the way they do about their children and their grandchildren, and that is the blessing of a small town. And it's difficult, but not because we're worried of some big underlying scheme of allegations of this, that, and the other thing where people are being booted out because they didn't do a good job and they covered things up. It's a small town, and mayors are mayors, and then they move on, and chief of polices get to do other opportunities, and then people get to retire someday.
Life goes on.
Life goes on.
Grotto, I'll put this on screen because I know this was one of your questions because we talked about it beforehand. So kind of get a chat question in and yours at once.
Well, we might want to hold off on that one. That's a kind of a two-parter there. So just starting on that, since actually, let's take a step back because one more question about the girls. I've seen it in chat a couple times now. Carroll did ask. We know that the girls they were in band together, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
they both played sports together as well.
Yes.
Were they part of any other church groups or camps or anything like that?
Okay, so they played volleyball together. They played saxophone next to each other all 3 years. They were involved with church, but not necessarily the same church. We had been to the same church that Libby had a number of years before. We may have gone at some of the same times, but like Abby had a youth group or two that she would visit with a friend that was not the same. They went to different camps in general. So they had some of the same groups, but not all the same groups. So they were not attending the same church at this time.
Okay.
Trying to think if there was any other groups. I can't think of any other specific groups that they might have been in that would have been a target or anything different other than volleyball and band for sure. And they were looking at doing softball. Libby had convinced Abby to sign up for softball just the weekend prior to their passing. So they would have played a couple of sports together, but they didn't do all the same things.
Yeah.
Same interest, but not all the same things.
Okay. A couple people have referenced this. If you want to go about the new park in their honor, do you want to say anything on that? That's pretty cool, huh?
Yep.
Oh, I'm not sure how this whole park got dreamed up, but it went from being this really cute little adventure to ginormous paperwork and like $1 million.
And an amphitheater.
Like, and an amphitheater and walking trails and
the whole city can fit in that park.
Everything. And unfortunately, as most people, I get questioned at least once or twice a week, especially not so much this year, but the year before. When are you guys going to do something out there? I'm like, look, we're doing stuff. You just don't see it. Like building permits take time and you have to get paperwork. Since the stage collapsed at the Indiana State Fair, every building that we put up has to go through the Indiana Homeland Security process. Every building has to be submitted, and then you have electricians and you have the water people and the ground people and the septic people, and everybody has to agree on what we're doing and where we're putting things. And then it just takes time. We have raised money. We've been working on grants. Some of them were matched. And a lot of that just comes in the fruition of everything's in a time and a place. And this year we got it so good. We got the amphitheater up. We've got grass in the ground. We have a well in. As of yesterday, we have 2 buildings with footings poured and ready to go. We're on our way, people. You watch and see. Come next summer, we're having our concert. We're having our benefit ride, and we are going to celebrate these girls in the 2021 style of the fact that they are seniors, and they're still something to celebrate.
Absolutely. That's awesome that they're doing that. Oh, and someone asked if you were taking donations still.
We still are. We still are. There are different ways that you can do that. We are not doing t-shirt sales at this time, although people have asked because it's their walking billboard. Ask me about how can you help? Do you know of these girls? They are or were, I believe they still are, bricks that will go along into the ballpark in walkways and against the amphitheater facing. There are bricks that you can sponsor in memory of or in honor of or with your family name or any other thing you should wish to put on there. And then I believe there's a spot on the website that you can just donate.
I'll put the website link at the bottom. Once
I
we're done.
appreciate that. Thank you.
I got all the tip stuff already, but I didn't think to put that. Sorry. So that will be there, guys, as soon as this is uploaded. So we talked about before. I always speak with all my guests about this, but I told you, we take questions from chat. Some could be difficult. I asked you if there's anything you don't want to answer. You said, nope, I'm wide open. Of course, there are some things you can't as far as like
Correct.
active investigation, but you were pretty open to at least receiving any questions because there's a couple difficult ones that keep popping up. In case you did want to address them, I'll bring them to your attention. No, absolutely no pressure. A lot of people are saying something about your brother releasing information and how do you feel about it? And then other people, and I'm not saying this, I'm just saying what I'm reading, that what are your thoughts on Kelsey's inconsistencies? It's just what few people have said.
So 2 different things. One, some people took advantage of a lot of our family members in the early stages, and I do know what you're talking about my brother specifically, who was a volunteer firefighter at the time. But the same thing that I talked to you is that so many things that happened in the early stages when we thought 2 little girls were grounded for a year because they were hiding out somewhere that didn't actually happen. We could have stopped a lot of that if we weren't so actively out helping and looking. I personally was at the firehouse a lot of the time, waiting very patiently for these two little brats to show back up and be grounded for the rest of their lives, while other family members were actively out there. Rumors started so very early that my brother felt compelled, out of his anger, to probably try to clear up things, and probably shouldn't have tried to help because it made things worse. And I won't touch on those directly, but I know of the messages that came up, and I remember the conversation. I said, I understand how you feel about the rumors. I mean, I just heard through Reddit that my kid was pregnant, allegedly. So, or one of them was pregnant, and that's why they were killed. I've since heard that it's my fault that the girls are dead because I've had a lot of boyfriends. Probably made somebody sick, and that's why they killed them. I've heard everything under the sun. It's aggravating and frustrating that people say things about that little angel right there that people could even, and they like to dwell on it.
Child, guys, a child.
Yeah, little person. And that's very difficult. As far as inconsistencies that people say allegedly from Kelsey, ask me what I wore that day, or what time I left the house, or what time I specifically got the phone call, or who was with me. I couldn't tell you. It's not inconsistencies or changing the story any more than people said that there was a picture of Abby on the bridge wearing a sweater that I took a picture in by another bridge, and that it was the same bridge, and it's not the same bridge, and it's not the same jacket. And at the end of the day, it's a jacket, and it had no bearing on anything, but people sure wanted to dwell. Focus on the timelines as best we can, because none of you remember what all you did yesterday and what time specifically. It's all an approximate at the best we can. And sometimes we were asked to recall this days upon days, and then weeks and months, and then a year after the fact, where I'm still trying to remember what day of the week it was and what all happened, and going through time schedules to know for sure, because it's so in your mind of every moment of how you felt that day. But don't ask me what time it was.
Right.
I know about the time because of the records, but that's about it.
And to be clear for anyone out there, particularly if Kelsey happens to be watching this, I only mention that because I didn't personally see any inconsistency. So those were my accusations, but I have seen them out there. So I felt it would be good to clear up for people who think there are. Absolutely not. Are we saying that? It's just something. Nope. In these cases, everyone says everything they can. So you try to clear it up.
It's exhausting, the amount of people that question us. It's so exhausting. But at the same time, I guess that it's just how people are.
It's unfortunate because a lot of these cases turn into more of like a team sport where everyone has their, what they think happened, and they'll argue and can argue with people who don't believe. And at the same point in time, as you mentioned, you've been asked questions and questions over and over again. And a lot of people, even if we sent you that Reddit thread, and there was a lot of good information on there that people could start. And then there's some other information that maybe needs to be corrected. But sometimes people, even if they see that, they won't believe it until they've heard it from your mouth. And that's pretty sad, unfortunately.
Right. And the thing about Kelsey, guys, like I said, I brought it up just to clear it up for people who think that, but she's also pretty much a child. I mean, I guess not anymore really, but she was at the time, and she's a victim in this as well, or suffering at least. I don't.
Yeah, it was a terrible time for all of us, and we all were in a different angle and a different spot. And Kelsey's done a tremendous job of pushing our case forward, and she was more available to talk to people and other victims, family members, than I was to begin with. She honestly did. The first crime con that we went to, Kelsey connected with a lot more people than I did. I wasn't ready to, and Kelsey pushed in a different direction. And she's done such a phenomenal job of all of that. I just personally, as a mother, just worry about everything that she does. I'm like, don't post where you're at. Don't tell all these people what you're doing or what your goals are. Stop it. We need to make sure you're safe. And that's my only thought about that, is that if people were targeting us, we see it all the time. We talk about it now with the child trafficking. Stop posting where your kids are. Stop posting everything you're doing. Just stop telling the world where to find you, because that for me is like your parents are like, we're going to put your face on a milk carton. Those are the things that I worry about, and those are the things that could possibly happen, and those are the only things I have ever worried about concerning Kelsey. She's done so good by us. I commend her. She's been amazing.
Awesome. Great job, Kels.
I'll go ahead. I saw that.
No.
Oh.
I clicked it right before you started talking.
I read at the speed of light. Do you feel do you feel that one sketch is more important than the other?
No, I can't say that one's any more than the other, because I feel like they're both valid for their own reasons. The police did what they did for the reason. I mean, I can tell you when they said that we went to the press conference and like, well, we're going to release a sketch. I'm like, do what? Because we've told everybody this is the guy we're looking for. Now you're saying this is the guy we're looking for? Are you kidding? Now we have to make whole new flyers. We have to start all over. But as they explained it, it was like, all right. I mean, you guys have to know what you're doing. You've been doing this. Okay. So here we go. So this is what we're doing. Okay.
This is another one I bring it up just for the sake of thoroughness, but again, you might know an answer, particularly because it involves someone young. But someone asked about Abby's boyfriend.
Oh, yes, there was a young man that apparently she was seeing, much like the Facebook thing. Apparently, there was a young man from a neighboring school that she had come into contact with. They appeared to have been hanging out a little bit. Since young man has moved on reasonably well, has a very good career in life, has chosen a very good path. He was a little bit older, and
I was going to say he must have been, yeah.
Not by much. So literally, Abby would have been 17 in June.
17.
That would make him 18, almost 19 at this point. So he was at least a grade, if not a grade, and then a little bit older than that if he was a late start birthday. I think he was. As far as where the birthdays fall and when you can start school. His family's doing well. His family's doing well, and I remember standing in a large chain store looking at stove with my significant other, and out of the middle of nowhere he says, I hope she got her first kiss. And I was like, I beg your pardon. He was like, she was a good kid. I hope she at least got some of the first. I was like, no, they held hands and stayed 6 feet apart the rest of the time, because I will not have any of this. But in my heart of hearts, he cared about her in the time that they knew each other, and their family experienced a difficult time because of what had happened here, because they were questioned extensively. But yes, there was a boy, and he's doing quite well and is moving forward in life.
Awesome. There are quite a few people in here. I just want to say we do these every night. Click subscribe, set the notification bell to all if you'd like to help these families that are suffering and could really use your help. And if you have any information, particularly on this case, guys, please come forward. A lot of you joined later, so I said this earlier, but you probably didn't see it. But no matter how small the detail is, how inconsequential it may seem, how much you may assume Anna already knows it, please come forward and say it. Never assume that. We'll try to get a few more questions in. I don't know. There's always this point in the interview where I start to wonder, am I like badgering them with too many questions? I don't want to throw everything, at you. But we'll see if we can get a few more in. Are you comfortable going for a little bit longer, Anna?
I'm good.
Okay.
I saw one question about with the DNA. If I looked her up while I was doing this, so I knew I wasn't getting trolled, but person who said it wouldn't have done that. It was CC Moore. She looks to be a famous someone who works in the DNA field. Have you heard any talks of that?
Oh, yes. She's probably one of the multiple people that has been brought to our attention. And the big thing with that is that people feel like they can demand release of information or evidence that she could have. I I don't know that that's possible. I don't know that the FBI or law enforcement is willing to do that. Not saying that they haven't done everything that they can, but I don't feel like they've run out of that option yet. So I am well aware of her research and how she's helped with it was the Tinsley case, wasn't it? I know that there's a lot out there. Yeah, see? I've heard, I'm aware, and that's 30 years. And God bless that family, because I don't want to be there in 2 years. It's a long time. I am aware it's not that we've said no by any means, but that's not a direction that our people have gone to. As far as I, the family, am not going to tell the police that they have to do something because somebody else thinks we ought to. I feel like Ellie has got this under control, and if they feel like that is the last option, then I guess that's what we'll do, but they don't seem to feel like we need to do that right now. But yes, we've heard it. We will keep it in mind.
Just want to make sure to thank the person who asked that question. Forgot to do that in the beginning.
Okay. And lots of love asks, how close was the grocery store incident in the 13th?
Oh, good heavens. Over a year. Well over a year. Like, it had to have been that summer before all this, which would have put us sometime in the middle of 16, I would think. Sometime in middle or fall of 16, and they didn't pass until February. So not quite a year, but not close enough incident. And I did bring that up to law enforcement, and I was like, nowhere near the sketch, nowhere near resemblance, nowhere near anything. I think it's just one of those weird happenstances that women can have with children sometimes, of people that they don't know.
Dixie asks, did Abby call? I know the answer to this, but I don't know how many people in the chat do. So did she call you and ask to go to the trail? Just to clear it up for people who don't know.
No, she did not call and ask me to go to the trail. She asked if she could stay at their house, and I said that was fine, but I had to go to my second job, and if she couldn't stay till 8 o'clock, then she needed to come home and I would pick her up. They said no, she was fine until that time, which was after dinner, which is all she asked about. And I remember Becky mentioning it to me in an interview after. She goes, I never even asked you. I said, well, wouldn't matter if you did or not. I trusted her to go to Florida with you guys. I didn't ask what you did in the county. Like, you're at their house. If I trust you to be there, then whatever they choose, for the most part, is acceptable. And so she was there in their care, and I know they did the absolute best. That's all there was to it.
Okay.
And someone in chat just kind of mentioned that there was a family member who told Sheriff Toby that the girls would just take off for hours. But obviously, I'm from a town of about 12,000 people, and I know it doesn't look like it now, but there was a time in my life where I would walk 5, 6, 7 miles, and I could be in a tree, I could be out overnight. So when you're in a small town like that, and you know more than 50% of the people, you don't always have to worry. And there's unfortunately a lot more trust. So now I live in a city. Guess what I don't have anymore? That trust.
No, that's fair. And I've got a couple of very close girlfriends that have kids her age and older. Some go to the same school, some go to a different, and another friend that didn't have kids that age. He's like, we don't just get to talk to so-and-so's kids. I was like, are you kidding me? If our mothers saw you acting a fool in town, they're going to tell you they saw you, and then they're going to call your mother and tell you. So they're going to stop you and whip on you, and then they're going to call your mom, and then you're going to get it at home. So best not act up in town, because some of these moms saw you. I mean, guaranteed, if you tried to rob a bank, so-and-so's mom was standing behind you in line. I'm like, Mikey, I'm calling your mother. You were in such big trouble. Like, you just wouldn't. There's no way you couldn't run into somebody that you didn't know that wasn't going to rat you out. These kids knew that. They'd walk the railroad tracks from so-and-so's house down to the gas station or wherever it was. That's just what they did. They were kids that lived in town, and they knew people watched them.
It's just you and me. All right. Hi. I looked up. I'm reading. I've got chat down here, you up there, and video on
Yep,
the other
I noticed.
channel.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
There you are.
I wet my mouse. I think the batteries are dying, so I was shaking it, and there's a back button on the side. I hit it while I was shaking it. Sorry about that.
I looked up and got real confused.
I thought, oh my god, did I just cancel out the stream since I
was
started
gonna go with it. It was gonna be fine. Whatever it was gonna be fine. It's fine. We're all back. It's good.
Speaking of that, everyone in the chat is like, oh my god, Anna, you are killing it. You're amazing. You're doing awesome, for Abby. And so I agree. You are representing her amazingly.
I don't know how many people are here and are watching this, but I appreciate what you guys have done today. And I appreciate those of you that are here and that are sharing our story.
A lot of people are into the story. We have on average at one time like 350 throughout the stream, but most people, the average YouTube stays like 10 to 12 minutes. So it's usually like 5 to 10 times that throughout it. So you've had a lot of people interested in Abby and Libby's story for sure. I mean, obviously way before this stream, but I mean right now.
So speaking of appreciation, I mentioned that I looked it up before. You've done dozens of events since your daughter's passing. You discovered fundraising through social media. I saw in an interview with first learned about it on Facebook. Is that right?
Yeah. One of the easiest things you can do through the social media of the Facebook platform is your birthday fundraisers. We looked at the number of family members that we had and the number of people even on our board for the ballpark that just said, if I can raise $200 today, that $200 right now we're in a matched grant. So every 200 becomes a 400 and so on and so forth. The money doesn't mean as much to me. It doesn't, even this ballpark in its entirety, I don't care how many millions it is, I'd still rather have them here. We're going to do a lot for the community and neighboring communities, and it will be a place that they will always be remembered. But things have changed this past year due to COVID, of getting people together. I was really hoping for the largest bike ride we'd ever had. The first initial ride estimated at around 5,000 bikes. If anybody's ever seen that YouTube video, of the drone that they had, I've never seen, nobody that I've talked to has ever seen so many bikes in so many places at one time. It's been touching and heartwarming. And social media now is kind of the forefront, because now with COVID, nobody can be in contact. We couldn't have the benefit ride. We couldn't have their celebration of life this year, and that stunk big time to not be able to celebrate them. But due to safety and regulations, was the smart thing to do, and we're just going to hope for bigger and better next year. But a lot can be done just through social media.
For sure, guys. Please share everything, flyers, interviews, posters, anything you can to get the word out. Obviously, this is already a pretty big case, but you never know what's going to be the set of eyeballs to solve it, or what's going to be the one time that person that is holding out says, I can't look at this anymore. I got to say something. So just keep pushing it out there, please, guys. Lighten it up for one moment here. Carroll asked, do you still have Abby's cat Bongo?
Yes, and that has been the most spoiled cat on the face of this planet. Bongo was an outdoor kitty. And then there was a point where I might have happened to let him slip in the house, thinking it would be like a ha-ha funny. And then now he gets milk at a certain time every morning and eats food in the house, not with the lesser cats out on the patio. And then he gets to nap in the house and has fresh water from the garden tub. He's living a very luxurious life, and I will be sure to update pictures of Bongo as I see fit through Facebook. He has quite the following. The cat has quite the following.
I was trying to make you smile a little, so I'm glad it worked. Do you want to ask this question, Grotto? This looks like a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Anna, what are your thoughts on why LE said the crime scene was strange and that they think they were onto something early on, but someone led the investigation? Well, this goes into a question, but someone led the investigation down the wrong path?
That's a unique question, only because I don't think I've ever heard it put that way. location wise, was not where the girls were found was not an easily accessible area, fairly much debunking the rumors that they were taken from and brought back to their resting place. I have been there personally, and when I set foot on the ground, they said, "This is the spot." And I looked, and I turned around, and I looked, and I was like, "So they didn't leave here, it doesn't seem." And he was like, "We didn't really think they had." I was like, "Well, yeah, but now I physically see that Abby might have been a little tiny person and Libby was a little bit bigger than that, but it would have been very difficult for somebody to have removed them alive or deceased and then bring them back." So there's that. As far as the rest of that question, I can't say that I've ever heard anything similar to that ever being brought up as to, I guess I don't know what was so unique or troublesome or questionable about it to why they thought that.
Okay. I've seen this quite a few times throughout about Bridge Guy having reddish hair. That I didn't personally see this in my research. Did they change what they thought about his hair and his eyes? Because this has come up a few times. So
no, again, that goes to like the witness statement things that most people felt like it was a blondish red hair color, but everybody seemed very convinced that he did not have blue eyes.
okay.
So I don't believe anything remarkable was done as far as DNA testing or anything like that. It was just one of those things where when generally those with red hair have considerably bright bluer eyes due to those genetics, and that most people said, nope, it was not one of those. So that's the best I can do with that one.
Okay.
I didn't realize how popular Bongo was until just this moment.
He's going to have his own Facebook page or a following or something, because I have other friends who are like, "So how's Bongo?" I'm like, "I'll send you updates." He's not that great of a cat. He's very ornery. And he whines. He's got like Maine Coon in him, so he cries like he's been shot. He's really just very sad and very lonely.
And you and I talked about this also. Sorry if I say your name, Seti Moisindy. The day they do catch Bridge Guy and whoever that second picture is, I think there will be one huge celebration. And you actually said there will be, right, Anna? Planning it?
There's gonna be a big party. I mean, I don't know what the party's gonna feel like. Some days I think it's gonna last for days. I'm gonna have to call into work because I'm just gonna be running around. And then there's other days I think I may just sleep after that. I may actually just be able to sleep for
Well, you can do both.
more than 6 hours at a time.
Call out of work, do the 3 days, and then just pass out.
Yeah, I mean, every job that I've had, and I won't go into details of, and I've not had that many, but I've kept certain aspects of my life pretty quiet as far as what I do for work. Not because it's anything illicit or anything exciting, but I just don't want people showing up and getting phone calls, because some of those are contracts of being only called upon because of who I was. If you want me to work for you, I will work for you, but only because of this, not because of that. And I've had to tell every boss. So there might be a day where I'm like, so I'm not going to be there for a bit. And I've had to call because we've had to travel for shows. Like I tell them, as soon as I know something, I will tell you if I have to be gone. So I've been very fortunate in my jobs that that hasn't been a problem. But yes, there will be a very large party, and it'll probably go across many state lines, and we'll celebrate in your time zone as well as we do on East to West Coast. It's fine. We got it. We can do that. We're fine.
And that's when he's caught, not if he's caught, guys. Because
when, not if, when.
Absolutely. Speaking of your jobs and things like that, you had said something to me. I don't know if you wanted to go into too much detail on it here, but you had talked about certain people whose names have come up and that you actually had worked with one of them in the past. And, you thought pretty highly of them, was my understanding. Do you want to go into detail on that, or?
Yes and no. As far as the person you're speaking of being Ron Logan, the property where the girls were found, and that was one of the first people they talked to us about. And I knew Ron on a personal note well before this, and I regret to say that I've not had the opportunity to personally speak with him, and I've seen him a couple of times in social situations and did not feel like it was a good time or it was too confrontational for anybody to come up and say, look, I know that you and I both know each other from all these years ago, and never once when they said, well, we think, did I say, oh yeah, absolutely not. I thought they were outside of their mind. It didn't make any sense. I was like, I only know them, in this type of atmosphere, but nothing I ever saw made me think that that was that kind of a guy. I mean, obviously, nobody, including all of our family, has ever been cleared of anything like this on the most official of capacities. But Ron has not been looked at for a considerable amount of time because they do know where he was, and it was an unfortunate circumstance that his property line was where the girls were found.
At I can't remember the name of the property, but they said no one is even home at that time.
Correct. It was about Logan's property. He was out, I believe, taking things to the dump, and then went to a neighboring establishment. So he was not supposed to be driving at that time, I believe, like legally speaking. And that was the long and the short of it in that situation.
Oh, that's a I don't know, I guess alibi for one, and not an alibi because there was a reason. He was out doing something.
Yeah.
Dixie asks, are Abby's Angels Christmas boxes still going to be done this year?
Yes, they are. We don't know in what shape or form they're going to be done because of the social restrictions, but we have a backup plan to our main plan, which generally we meet at the local middle school. We have the Honor Society help with us. We have not even gotten so far because I just keep wondering how long they're going to let us keep having school before they shut everything down because of COVID again. But we still have a plan. We are still collecting. There is a wish list through Amazon that people can order because we understand that while we have local people, there are people from out of state and out of town that want to help, including my own family, that can't bring things, can't drop stuff off. You can purchase and have things shipped. We are still planning on putting boxes together sometime in mid-November, and we're going to hope for a record year.
Awesome. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help push the word on that and get them out.
Oh, I'm pretty interested in that and those boxes myself.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
So, yeah. I was interested in that and the bricks. I'm like making a mental note.
We call it Abby's Angels, but in all actuality, it is the Samaritan's Purse that they do through most churches, even if it's not for us. And people said, well, we want to do this in Abby's honor over here. I'm like, by all means, do what you want to where you're at in our honor. We're happy with that too. We're actually going to look at putting the Facebook link through Abby's Angels in the boxes this year, because then we can actually might hear back more about where the 300 plus some go, because they're just now being delivered. Some of them, they don't get those boxes 3 weeks after we put them together. Sometimes it takes 6 months or almost a year. There are kids that are just now getting boxes that were packed last year for Christmas. It's an all-year program.
Okay. Just going through the chat. Grotto, do you have any more questions as we get a little bit on here? It's trying to go through the chat and see if there's anything else we missed to make sure it's all covered.
I see a couple of questions that would be more for the investigators, because obviously
I've been skipping those ones.
She wouldn't know. She kind of made it pretty apparent. She's got a lot of trust. She has a lot of trust in the investigators, and she lets them do their job. And you don't want to be the helicopter parent to the investigators. So especially when you've mentioned they're treating you so well. So as more information is released, in some cases we'll hear about it before she does. So if it's on Reddit. So.
Yeah.
Okay. And I can check and see if there's any more while we do this, but I know you said that you've watched at least a couple shows, and as you probably know, at the end, I typically do something where people try to speak directly. Do you want to try to speak directly to someone who may know something to come forward? I just feel it's a lot more powerful from you coming from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for what you guys are doing today. And I want the people that are out there to know, and the one person that we need, please come forward. Please help us all sleep better at night. Our girls are going to be seniors this year, 2021. And it would mean so much to us to know that this will never happen again somewhere else. And we know the right person is out there, and we know that they care to do the right thing, and we're just asking them to do it. God bless you.
Thank you, guys. And a few people let us about how they can get flyers to post around. I mean, I guess they could just print them out, but I figured I would ask you.
You can. There was a movement for a while where people were actually messaging Libby's grandma Becky to have her send them flyers. So I'm like, guys, 5 cents a piece. Go to your local library. Like, it's costing a fortune. And God bless her, she did it. Would print them out, stick them in envelopes, and mail them to somebody. That's gonna cost what, $5 for that? When you could print so many more yourselves just doing it. We understand that people don't always have the means, but there's lots of places locally in most towns that will donate 100 copies to a cause, something like that. All you have to do is ask. There was a friend that you know that has a printer. It's like, heck yeah, go ahead. Send me the link. I'll print them out. We'll take them wherever. The most notable things, though, is that there are places that you cannot post things. State rest areas are big no-nos. They don't allow certain things. You need to ask for permission from a lot of gas stations before, but if there's a community court type situation, they'll let you post it there. And only so many are necessary. You know, do the best you can, but people said, hey, we've been traveling from Michigan to Florida. We're going to put one everywhere we stop. Good, as long as it's allowed. But a lot of the state rest areas don't allow it. They'll take them down, and that's just a waste of everybody's resources. We appreciate it, but be aware of that. And we do ask, I personally ask, that you use what is posted by the actual FBI. None of the cutesy, flowery pictures. I need to know that the person that sees this is going to see that tip line, going to see the picture of the girls and the suspect we're looking for, and put all 3 of those things together, because none of them make any sense without the other. The reward is also helpful information, but the tip line, the contact numbers, the email, and the suspect, that original FBI, we appreciate you using that. There's lots available, but please use the one that we've posted.
Is that the... Okay, so because I have an email, a tip line, Indiana State Police, and Carroll County Sheriff I pulled off. Do you want me to remove any of those?
No, that's usually all on one flyer to begin with. There'll be a picture of the girls that are next to each other, and there's probably a little code that you can hear the down the hill loop. It's on the actual website. I believe it's the abbyandlibby.org site that you can find that flyer. I believe that's the one. It's a .org or a .com. I believe it's .org. And that has, and it's in the different sizes, but it's that regulated FBI-ish formatted one that has what we want on it and is what's needed.
Okay. Is there anything that Grotto or myself didn't think to ask that you feel is important gets out there? And again, guys, the tips line is below in the description if you haven't seen it. But is there anything just related to Abby or Libby or anything?
Any rumors you want to dispel, anything like that?
Exactly.
Oh, there are so many rumors, and we don't have that kind of time, boys.
That's
but
what I
I
said in chat.
appreciate you asking. No, I just think that the most important part is recognizing what's important at the long run, and that's sharing that flyer and recognizing that there is somebody out there that knows who did this, and we just need that person to come forward. And we've been praying like crazy for it, and we'll just keep doing so. We will not rest until we've got him. It's not an if, it's a when. So that's it.
All right. Well, you have done absolutely amazing, Anna, and I know that Abby and Libby are very proud of you. I keep kind of just saying Abby, guys. I don't mean that, of course, there's any slight, but for obvious reasons, because I'm sure there is there's something she doesn't want to speak for the other side of the family, which is why I don't bring up Libby as much. That's why I kind of keep referencing Abby more so. But everything we're doing, of course, is for both of them. But okay, well, thank you so much. You've been amazing. And anything I can do further, I'll stay in touch with you, of course, as we have been. But I'll keep putting this out everywhere I can. And thank you to everyone for joining us. And have a great night, everybody. You want to say your goodbyes, Grotto?
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And I certainly look forward to when this person is found making an awesome video about it, because that's what I love doing. So I'm looking forward to that day myself.
Yeah, and if
All
there
right.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate you guys so much. I really do. You guys have done so excellent. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And if any other updates, anything happens, anything you forgot to say, come right back on. It's always open to you. But we'll talk well before then anyways.
Absolutely.
All right, Anna. Thank you so much. All right, guys.
right.
Have a great night.
Bye.